Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Catherine. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Yeah. Far too busy, but very good.
Last time in a long time. Oh, went a bit funny then. Hang on.
Yeah.
Um, you're far too busy.
Far too busy. Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Well, it definitely went funny because your mouth went totally out of coordination with your voice.
yeah, I think I'm back.
Like it. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
saying I had a migraine this week, which was the first time in a long, long time. So,
You're
not
doing
great.
eating too much chocolate.
No, I think I've had quite a few losses recently, and I think it's just accumulated in my mind. Yeah, it was a lot happening actually. I lost my uncle, I lost my cousin.
Oh, yeah.
I'd lost a cousin's husband. I just, and then we did my dad's ashes on Sunday, and I actually think it was just too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Get that.
It just suddenly emotionally got like too much, and I think the migraine is the sort of response to that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
it's life, isn't it? It's just life, but it's just like,
It is.
oh,
And somehow you've got to find a way of reframing those things mentally, I reckon.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, that's
Yeah.
right. You've got to go through your
That
own.
ashes is a sad thing. But then you've got to reframe it in terms of what my dad was like, the good times.
And it's a lot. It was really in retro, like 12 years ago, but I think ironically, doing it so much later,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know, just the whole process. It wasn't, as you say, it's fine. I think it's just when things all come together.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think back to dealing with my dad's ashes now, and I just smile and think about everything that went wrong that day.
well, that's what yes,
Yeah. Yeah. And my dad was, well, both my dad and I played golf together regularly.
yeah.
And we were members of Bamborough Castle Golf Club up on the coast in Northumberland.
Mm,
And now it's a fantastic golf course. It
yeah.
starts off as a links course, and then you end up going inland, and it turns into a more of a country park course.
Yeah.
Between, now, if you've seen pictures of Bamborough Castle, it's standing up there on the cliffs. Then you look out to sea, you've got the Farne Islands standing up on the cliffs,
Oh,
and it's
nice.
because it's where you've got an outcrop of what's known as the Great Wind Sill in North.
Right, right.
So you get these rocks coming up for no reason at all, because there's one of them comes up in the middle of the golf course. It's the 15th tee. If you stand on the 15th tee on Bamborough Golf Course, you can turn around, you can see the horizon in 360 degrees. See for miles, you can see, look up the coast, you can see Lindisfarne, you can see beyond, you can practically see up the Scottish border in Berwick. You look down the coast, you can see for about 20 miles,
Mm.
inland to the Cheviot Hills, out at sea, clear day, across the Farne Islands and beyond to the horizon on the sea. My dad always said, Kevin, when I die, I want my ashes scattered here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got to do this. So dad died 31st of January. And we thought, well, we've got to get this over. So there we are, February, one of the windiest days.
Oh no, I know. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and this is a good while ago. Dad died at 62. I always had something psychological about getting past 62 as a result. But hey ho. So we had Kate wasn't born. Benjamin was there in his buggy, literally just turned one. So we've got to push child in buggy
Oh
up
no.
15th tee on the golf course. Howling wind, freezing cold. And of course, then get the ashes out, scatter them. So we decide where we're going to do it. Muggins, of course, doesn't take into account the direction the wind's blowing when I
Yeah.
move it.
Yeah.
So opened it, sprinkled down, and half the ash just blew back against me. So I was
Oh.
actually covered in the dad. To make matters worse, I was wearing a wax jacket. So they were stuck to the wax jacket.
You do- yeah.
I definitely looked on that as dad having the last laugh.
Well, I have to say, because we'd had the ashes in the vase for 12 years
Yeah.
and they got stuck in the vase. So So there I was with a stick trying to get the ashes out of the. I mean, and the as you say, it was. I mean, we're indoors. I mean, honestly, it was just going every. I mean, it as you say, you sort of have to laugh because, in fact, we were actually almost laughing. It was like, what, it's just, yeah. And we put them in a plant, but you're right. It's just, yeah,
Yeah. And you
yeah,
got you've got to reframe these things, Catherine, and think about them in a
yeah. I know. Yeah,
good
you're
way.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Hey,
Oh.
we're here to record a podcast, though.
Well, we are, we are. I'm just going
What
to
are we
shut
going
the
to talk about?
curtain because, hang on, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Hang on. Let me show you. It's a bit bright. Um, that's better. I think that's a bit better.
This is only podcast number 3 today.
Oh, that's a lot in one day.
Ah, geez. And I'm recording another one straight after this.
Oh, oh, that is a
But
lot.
this is the problem. I was wiping the slate clear and saying, right, I've got enough podcasts in stock. I'm not going to record anything in April.
Hmm.
Other than, well, we tried to arrange things. I gave you a couple of slots that were not in the podcast diary because I'd already put a line through that. So we got these in. But then 2 weeks ago, Zoe comes along and says, Kevin, the summit. We've promised all 5 sponsors a podcast appearance. Zoe, the summit is less than 3 weeks ago away. Oh, it's all
Hmm.
right. 2 of them want to appear on the podcast before the summit.
So there's a bit of shuffling round.
So a lot of shuffling around, which is one reason that the last episode that we recorded together has not appeared yet.
Oh, that's it. I didn't expect. It's fine.
But it means that this one will be even further down the queue. But
Well, they could always go together in the end,
well,
couldn't they?
they
They could
could
go part one and part two.
part one, part two. It all depends. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So suddenly, from having recorded no podcast, wanted to record no podcast, or perhaps one with you, then I'm recording 6 podcasts.
Mm.
Plus, Graham and I say, hang on a minute, we're living hand to mouth again, Graham. You've been away. I had a week I couldn't record because we always record the next 100 days on a Thursday. We're living hand to mouth. We better go and book a few in. So Graham and I started scrambling around for some new guests and starting booking 2 recordings on a Thursday. So, well, yeah, today's going to be all right. Yeah, okay, I've got Catherine at 2. That's going to be easy because I don't have to prepare anything.
That's right. They just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Graham and I actually we've got nothing prepared for the next one. We're just going to open. We've not got a guest. We're just going to turn the microphones on and sort of talk about how we're each using AI. So we'll just see where it goes. Um, so today, from well, really only having one to worry about, I've got 4 podcasts booked in.
So it is a lot. Mm.
Weeks. Did a 2-hour workshop on Tuesday for the Future CFO program. What did I do yesterday? Uh, recorded a podcast with Randy Wooden, another one of the summit guests. I spent an hour with Zoe's team working
Mm.
and the podcast over to them, so I don't have to do any of the post-production work. And I spent an hour and a half with talking to Shelley Adams from our new business partnering colleagues,
Mm.
just getting to know Shelley and finding out how we're going to work together. And so it's been one of those weeks, Catherine, where
Mm.
I've done loads and I'm looking at the to-do list of actually proper work to do. Nothing's ticked off.
Well, it sounds important what you've been doing, so you could that's the priority.
The problem's Dan, because he says, we need this, Kevin. And then he expects it to have been done almost instantly.
Mm.
Never realizes anything takes time. And there's a whole load of other stuff being done as well.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I yeah, I'm not
And
quite sure
please
what's
do not
happening
have
really.
the next idea. I haven't caught up with the last one yet.
No, and other ones you sort of got a little bit bored with in a way. So it's a bit
Yeah.
yeah, which isn't doesn't leave you feeling the greatest if I'm really honest. But
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Hey ho, we shouldn't have record switched on at this point. Never mind. This bit's all going to be cut out and put in the bin.
Or we can have a chat at the end, but it depends how much time you've got. But yeah. Um,
So it is just horrendously busy here. Why haven't we got a CP application in yet for all of the self-study stuff, Kevin? Because I haven't had time to sit down and do it, Dan.
no, he's on yeah. I'll be honest with you, as you probably could see, I'm not that close anymore because it's that's not my doing. I just mean I don't know what's happening sometimes.
Alan's running off and doing all sorts of things in the back in here that I was no closer than you on a lot of stuff that we talked about in the last management meeting. I ended up having a 2 hour phone call with Dan the following morning, getting the detail behind the high level stuff he talked about with you and I. Could you kind of
Yeah.
apologize that this has all happened so fast, Kevin? Sorry it didn't involve you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I take it for what it is, if that makes sense, and I'm grateful for what it is. So I tend to try and sit in that space.
Put it this way,
But
it is
but
all going in the right direction. It's pretty exciting.
yeah, it is. I just don't know how important. I don't know. I don't know. I, I I don't know. I don't know how to quite express it without it sounding too.
I think the
He
issue,
moves on to different people, so it's just that's fine. But he's not the best communicator. So
and I think that you and I have probably got different motivations of what we want to get out of this to Dan.
yeah, I think so. Well, that's
Dan
really
still wants
yeah,
to create a 8 figure business and sell it
yeah,
and have a
uh,
lot of money that he can then go and off and do what he wants with.
yeah. That's
I'm in the
fine.
place that says, well, fine, if we do that, Dan, I get a little cut of whatever that is, but that might pay for all the missing payments that I've got. But actually, what do I want? I want to enjoy what I'm doing, be choosy and do the things that I want, and earn enough. And you're in pretty much the same place.
I am. I am. I am. I am. I just No,
And
I
you,
am, and
you're
I,
way
and
lot more
I,
fortunate than me, Catherine, because you can do the mentoring and so on and switch off without worrying about the keeping all the admin bits running in the business.
I can, I can definitely. But there's not much coming through to me anymore, so that's not his focus anymore. So I don't have a lot coming through, sadly. The clients I have are amazing, and luckily some of them have, that they're long-term clients. So that's why I'm staying in the sort of grateful place because that's wonderful.
I don't
But
think that's
there isn't
necessarily
much.
the focus of a problem of Dan. I sense that there are possibly not quite as many leads coming through.
No, because we're going slightly down the volume route. So the client base doesn't have maybe so much funding or um yeah. So everything I seem to do now, he seem there just seems to be an energy of this is difficult,
Mm.
which I don't like actually, because that doesn't make it. I'd like a little bit more sort of thanks for the fact we've been around for a number of years, sort of supporting very well in the back,
Yeah,
up front or in the background, whatever way you want to put it. But
yeah,
um,
yeah. Hey ho, tis what it is.
yeah, I will have a chat with him at some point. But I think, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not bad. It's just I wish it was a little bit more engaging. That's all, a little bit more. Uh, yeah, I
Any, we're going to record a podcast.
yes, we are. We
What have you got
are.
in mind?
Well, I was going to talk about leadership because, and almost like navigating leadership.
Okay.
And the fact that that transition to being a leader or a better leader is actually your own navigation through change. The reason I'm using that is because my session at the summit is around navigating technological change.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't that, but it's about sort of using that concept as leadership being your own navigation through change. And I just want to sort of share um let's talk about personal power. The sort of difference between personal power and positional power, where your personal power is about you and how you show up and your
Mhm.
confidence and resilience. I've got different points on that, so I just thought I'd talk through some of those really.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, recently a lot of people have either been saying, how do I transition from manager to leader?
Yeah.
Or how do I become the leader I want to be? Or I've got a new
And
leadership role, and all of those different things
in
really.
as well with what I talk about in the last session on the Future CFO program. Now, your first 100 days in your new CFO role.
Can we not go there if you don't mind?
Fine.
The reason I say that is because I'm not uh we may have different views on that. I wanted to sort of keep it out of that level of detail
Right, that's fine.
and be more
I've got no problem with that at all because while and that's all stuff that we put together a long time ago that's about split your first 100 days down into these chunks of time, milestones, what are you going to do in each time slots and so on, how are you going to get on board. I'm much more interested these days at asking questions like, great, you're the leader now. How do you create a culture in this team?
yeah, so that yeah, I just want to keep it a higher level, sort of actually
Actually,
ways
just
of
an aside,
being. Yeah,
the current version of the Next 100 Days podcast that Graham and I did was with an Australian chap that just moved to London, two times author. His first book was about leadership. His last book was about creating strategy, Shane Hatton. I'm
Shane
actually
Hatton.
reading his book at them, his creating culture book at the moment.
Yeah,
It is really good.
okay.
It's actually practical, talking about the sort of things that he'd do, who's engaged with a client and the questions to ask. And I
Yeah,
think I really like it because it's actually practical, down to earth, and not full of irrelevant theory.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, that's where I wanted to go with this, a bit more um yeah, a bit higher level, almost like a
Yeah, yeah,
philosophy.
that's
Philosophy
fine.
as
I
opposed
am
to
absolutely comfortable with that, Catherine. I
yeah,
want to go into that first 100
yeah,
detail stuff. Yeah, but it's when we went from doing these hour modules to 2 hour modules, I put in some extra stuff that was more around that sort of thing.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It's piquing my interest a lot more.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Well, I don't know how it'll go. I've got, as you know, I always prepare for these things, but whether
Yeah. Yeah. Ruth is out, and I just know that when she comes in, dog will make a fuss. Yeah. So door shut, dog on the other side of door.
same, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Can we just kick it off and see where we get to?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
What are we going to call this? Transitioning from manager to leader.
No, no, I don't think not that. I think it's navigating leadership. That's what I've called it,
Navigating
navigating leadership, because I'm not. It's not just manager to leader. It's leaders. I know. Yeah, it's covering the span, if I'm honest, of what leader do I want to become.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things they don't teach you anything about to pass your exams.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. Shall we just start
And it
talking?
start and it starts with even choose. Anyway, we'll go there. We'll go
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Okay. So in three, two, one. Hello and welcome to the Grow CFO Show. I'm your host, Kevin Appleby, and I've got head of mentoring at Grow CFO, Catherine Clark, back with me today. Hello, Catherine.
Hi, Kevin. Really nice to be back.
Catherine, we're going to talk about leadership today. Navigating leadership. Tell
Yes.
me more.
Yeah, so I mean, leadership's a big sort of area to talk about, but I really want to sort of start thinking about whether you're transitioning to be a leader, so taking yourself from a manager to a leader, or whether you want to be a better leader or you've got a new role, a new leadership role in a different organization. It's all about navigating that change for yourself. And I just want to go and explore that today and see how you can become a more conscious leader, a leader that you want to be, and one that you define for yourself. So, in my mind, that's sort of being the best version of who you are and not fitting into any other role model type.
Okay, just wind back a second there, Catherine. What do you see as the difference between a manager and a leader? So I'm thinking most managers will have some kind of responsibility for people and team. So what's the difference?
Well, my version of the difference is actually inspiring and leading others. So management is possibly more sharing about how you do certain things. It is guiding people and training and teaching them. But a leader becomes not just a finance leader, which is often the group that we're working with. It's a leader of a business. It's a leader that instigates change or inspires the culture of the organization, and really has that energy, enthusiasm, sort of calmness and clarity to do that day in, day out. It does actually become a part of us for many, many years.
Yeah,
Um, so the question is, how can I keep showing up in that way to actually allow others to sort of follow where I'm taking them?
yeah, and this is one of those things that we, or at least most of us, as finance leaders, passed our accountancy exams, got lots of practice doing finance stuff in the finance team. But hey, we didn't build any experience in leading the business, and we didn't pass any exams in how to lead the business. So, how do you start building these leadership skills, Catherine?
Well, um, I think it can be a longer journey. I believe it starts with yourself. And when we did our last podcast together, which is almost like part one of this, really, it's about actually knowing who you are and what you want.
Yeah.
And that includes the environment that you'll thrive in. And that's so important because you've got to be recognizing that as a leader, you're actually being of service to something greater than yourself. It
Yes.
requires a lot of energy, a lot of responsibility, a lot of effort. So you've got to choose the environment where your strengths are going to play really strongly, and where the people in that environment are going to truly, truly value what you bring, and respect you and and see you fully for yourself in that place. And,
Okay.
and 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 part of that is even choosing the leaders you want to work with. So you're all on the same page. And arguably you can work in a form of harmony together to achieve that organization's goals.
Yeah. Now that's something interesting. Is and we were talking before we started recording about module 9 of our future CFO program. Okay, we talk a lot about the first 100 days as CFO, but I think there's kind of the CFO job as a shiny object. Oh, I've got to go grab that. Oh, the headhunter's been on the phone, is offering me this CFO role. This is what I wanted. This is what I'm going for. How often when that shiny object comes along, do we stop and think to say, and is this the right CFO role for me? And I certainly
Correct.
know examples of 2 or 3 people that have been through the program and have left that first CFO role remarkably quickly because it wasn't the right role for them.
No, there's got to be a very, very strong alignment between what you want and where you'll thrive and what that organization needs you to be. And I've had the same with people I've worked with, that they're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than being in the wrong place because over time, your confidence will just edge away because nothing will feel easy. everything will have additional effort because the more almost you try, that the more it's not seen. So I strongly recommend, if we're talking about sort of finding the place where you can really thrive, that you actually use even things like visualization ahead of time to really define in your mind what you would like from a role and how you see that leadership playing out. So seeing it playing out in a version of reality in your mind, with the emotional connection of how that will feel, even before you step in the door of any organization.
I like that. Yeah. Seeing it playing out in your mind. And I don't think I've ever used that visualization technique on that scale. But
Yeah, I recommend it a lot.
that technique, I can think of a couple of very, very big presentations of going in and using that kind of visualization technique and knowing the people in the room and visualizing how the presentation will play out. You know, who's going to ask which question? If I put that on that slide, who's going to like it? Who's going to object to it?
Mm.
Or do I put something on that slide that's going to actually provoke that person to say something because we've got to get that discussion out in the open? So that visualization thing, I see the real power of it. But how do you go about visualizing something so much bigger than as an entire job?
Well, in the same way, because the part of knowing who you are is actually knowing your values, your belief system, understanding how your how you connect to yourself first and foremost, so that
Yeah.
you know what works for you and you know what's going to feel great.
Yes.
I'm very much about feeling great
Yeah.
in a place that you choose to spend a lot of time.
I think
And
I totally agree on that one. Yeah. You
yeah,
spend
and
far too much of your life at work not to feel great in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we do. Unfortunately, like you called it, like a shiny object, but that sort of shiny outcome, or thinking that the title is going to be, the sort of be all and end all of what you've really wanted, may not be the truth. And so, we've really got to go inside and understand ourselves first before we even really step out as a leader.
Okay. So I guess then second step is work out what the organization you're going to lead is really like. And does it fit the vision?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there is a lot of due diligence, arguably, ahead of sort of saying yes. And that, by the way, could be the same if you're already in an organization and having an internal promotion.
Yeah.
You'll have a bit more visibility in that case. But am I taking this because it's there, it's sort of in front of me, and oh, that's a wonderful opportunity. But really, the question is, does it really feel right? And if I was choosing, and remember, that's in a sense what visualization is doing, you are choosing what your reality can be.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Now, one question that comes to my mind then, Catherine, that says a lot of what you're walking into is going to be about the culture of the place. To what extent do you believe you can create a culture versus being stuck with what's already there?
Well, even in my own journey, when people say to me, what was your inspiration for getting to the top? For me, it was about the culture.
Yeah,
And it was about being able to influence how an organization developed, how it treated its people, and how it performed. I don't think you can change culture quickly. I'm going to be honest. I think
mhm,
it's a bit of a longer game. Um, and it's got to come from the heart in that sense. You can put in processes to, sort of shift the culture, but it's more of a heart change, in that you've really got to believe and want it to be a different culture.
yeah,
And if you describe values for the organization, that is genuinely what people are living and breathing day
yeah.
in, day out.
So I think what you're telling me there is that you've got to be as you say, is this the right move for me? The culture's kind of got to be 90% right, 90% there.
Yes, yes. I think in life there's a bigger philosophy that we can't change other people or in this case
Yes.
change the culture. We only really have the power to influence.
Yes.
Now, our influencing power increases arguably if we have people around us who are also thinking, I'm cautious to say in the same way, but people who are supportive of change
Right.
and
Yes.
want there to be a shift in say the culture, to create a better environment for everyone.
Yeah. 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 Get that. Can I just stop us here, Catherine? Cherry, cut this piece out as you edit. Where do we go next in this conversation?
Um, I really, I'd quite like to go into the personal power because we just talked about influence.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of ways to exert influence, and I think that's where I'd like to go next. So I
Okay.
can carry
Right.
that on.
Right. Okay. Just making sure I ask you the right question. We don't go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know we were slightly. Say you just mentioned influence. I wanted to talk about the two. Sorry, I'm still um, the two ways of influencing.
So, okay. Start with three, two, one. So, Catherine, we're talking about influence here. How do you start influencing culture, the way things are done?
Yeah, so with influence, there's well, there's two ways you can exert influence as a leader, and one of them is through the position that you hold. So your title, your by nature of the fact you've got a leadership title, will give you positional power. Um, but your title really only takes you so far. So we've got to be considering your own personal power, which is very much about your attitude, your state of mind, and about winning the hearts and minds of the people in the organization.
Okay. Tell me more.
And
Tell
yes,
me
I'll
more.
tell you, yes, I'll share more. I think someone with personal power is actually so comfortable in their own skin. And this is why I'm saying about know yourself really well, and
Yes.
like yourself as you are. You don't have to be someone else. That by being that, they can actually focus their attention outward, which is when you can inspire others and bring out the best in them. So it's the kind of person that walks into a room and actually makes everyone feel like the most important person there.
Okay. That's a rare quality. Is that
Yeah.
something that you can develop, or is it that just some people have it and some people don't?
I think it comes more naturally to some people than others, but you can also develop it. And I've got some thoughts around that, which I'd like to share really.
Okay. Share
But
away.
certainly it's the much more magnetic side of leadership. So, creating an environment where people want to follow you.
Yeah.
And I think I said back at the beginning, I don't believe there's one version of a leader. It's about being the best version of yourself
Yeah.
because some people are trying to fit into a certain, mold of what they believe a leader should be. And I'll always say, be yourself, but be the best version of that and step in confidently to that position. So we've talked about sort of understanding yourself, and there's a lot of almost inner work to do there
Yeah.
to really understand sort of where you are now. And sort of what your thoughts are thinking and your belief system and whether your actions follow off your thought processes and making sure you understand and are clear on your values and you live and breathe them every day. Um, there's then your communication. So it's actually paying very close attention to whether your words and actions diminish or empower those around you. And obviously, we want to be conscious
Mhm.
enough to know that what we're saying and doing is aligned, but it actually empowers those around us. And in that, we're creating a very psychologically safe environment where we want people to be open and share what they're thinking, their ideas, with no sort of fear of any retribution on their own thought processes.
And part of that must be having the right attitude to mistakes or things that we might traditionally call failure.
Correct. Yeah, it's recognizing that people make mistakes, and that's just a normal part of life, and you learn from it, and
Yeah,
you support and you move forwards.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah,
Um, I think that the third thing is around confidence. High performers are naturally more perfectionist by nature, but we know we're not perfect. But what we do need to step into each day is that we are actually doing the best that we can each day. That's our intention as a leader. I'm
yeah,
here to serve this organization and I'm here to do my very, very best. And
yeah,
you can't really ask for more than that. And when you know that's how you're operating, you can't really do a lot better than that.
yeah, indeed. Now, one of the things that I'm sure is going to get in the way here. Um, Now we know the top 10 things that finance leaders struggle with. Task overwhelm. That would worry me no end in this environment because you're probably, if you're suffering from task overwhelm, lots of stuff to do. That is still very much in the managing rather than the leading piece. How do you practically overcome that, Catherine, to give yourself the space to lead?
Yeah, I mean, you have to give yourself time to think and space to lead. It's in, sometimes when I say they're not necessarily small shifts, but you've got to be prepared to make changes
Mm.
and not hold on to things that previously felt safe
Yeah,
or you somehow attached your worth to. So you've got to have the right team in place. You've really got to surround yourself with the best people, delegate out the detail so you can really provide the oversight and the guidance as a leader.
mm,
Um, Time to think is incredibly important because I can only assume, for most people anyway, in leadership, you want to make a meaningful and impactful contribution
yes,
and bring that true value that you can. But I really see a lot of people lost in the details still. And you
yeah,
must step out from that. That's one of the expectations of a leader is to be arguably available, actually, available to be able to see the bigger picture and
yeah.
to
Do you
engage in
think we
conversations of a high level.
Yeah, do you think we have a problem as finance folk of stepping out of that detail? Because all of the things that we've done all the way through our careers have probably been about detail. Now we want every general ledger account reconciled to the last penny. We want to make sure there are audit trails behind everything. We're used to producing detailed pieces of analysis. Do you think the mindset that we've been trained into year after year actually gets in the way of us?
Uh, yes, and actually, if I'm being honest, a lot of people enjoy some of that detail that you're describing,
Yeah,
and they're being almost forced to let it go, but don't really want to. Now, again, I will always say leadership is a choice.
yes,
You know, you know, just know what you want. I know I probably keep saying it, but if you really, really love the detail, you have
don't
a
step into
choice.
the leadership
Yeah,
role.
don't step into
Yeah,
leadership role. Yeah,
yeah,
because as a leader, you must let go.
yeah,
You must let go and trust.
yes.
And allow that team to operate in that sense for themselves with your guidance. But yeah, you have to let go.
And I guess the danger as you try to let go is yes, you've given all those tasks to somebody else, but then you start micromanaging.
And obviously, when I say let go, I don't mean not understand the detail. I mean, I still
Right.
believe as a leader, you've got to stay connected to, of course, you have to the outcome of the detail. But you have to really put in place the people, the classic, the people, the processes, the technology to
Oh,
ensure that output is as good as it can be.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we've established that you've got to know yourself,
Hmm.
have a vision for where you want to be based on putting yourself into the environment that you're going to absolutely thrive in, that
Hmm.
you're going to enjoy. We've got to step away from the detail. We've got to empower folk around us. Catherine, is there something in here about creating the right culture that it's not just about your vision and then turning that vision that you've got personally onto everybody else in the team, but somehow establishing a joint vision?
Do you mean for the organization, Kevin, or for finance? Or sorry, I'm not
Well,
sure you're.
I can let's cut again. Let's cut again. I was thinking, Catherine, that you've got a vision yourself. You've got a set of values yourself, a particular way you want to work. You arrive there in the workplace and you start imposing that. And you haven't thought about, well, what are the values of the rest of the team? What are the things that they hang
You've
dear?
got to, just between you and I chatting, you've got to find that out in advance. So I think, um, I don't quite know where that's heading, if I'm honest.
Okay, fine,
I
fine. Let's
think I'm,
put some more
I
of the
think I'm
questions.
trying to stick for a minute to them as a leader.
Yeah.
We keep slightly diverting into culture, which I think, by the way, earlier was fine in the way it
Yes.
went. But I think maybe just come back to, you've just done a little summary.
Yeah.
I was then going to go into just a couple of other areas that I thought were
Okay.
important:
Right. Which are?
resilience and emotional intelligence.
Okay. Right. Right. So, Catherine, tell me more about the characteristics of a great leader. What else do I have? I've got this vision. I've moved into the organization. I'm freeing up time. I'm delegating. What else do I need?
Well, one of them is emotional intelligence.
Thought you were going to say that.
Um, look, we were just talking about overwhelm.
Yes.
And that's a truth. That's a reality at the moment. A lot of people are overwhelmed. We know that too much stress can actually take you away from your optimal performance and lead to overwhelm, stress, anxiety, lower productivity, lower motivation. So we've got to keep in that really sharp space of I've got enough stress and challenge to keep me on my toes. But actually, I can still retain my calm in what can often be quite chaotic or
Yeah.
calm in the chaos. So certainly one of the emotionally intelligent traits is to effectively navigate stress and actually, again, choose to stay calm under pressure.
And I guess
You've,
I'm choosing to navigate stress in the sense of my own stress, and I'm being intelligent enough to spot stress in others and help avoid
yes.
it.
Yes. And often as a leader, unfortunately, maybe you become the buffer as well between that senior leadership team and possibly your own team. So you've got to be able to buffer the stress from above and below. And your own stress, which is a lot to take on, by the way, which will lead me in a moment to my other point on resilience. But let me finish this bit first. um, um, Emotional intelligence is also adapting to changing circumstances. So we know change is a constant. We know that. We're going to be talking about change, technological change in the Grow CFO Summit that's sort of coming up in May. And so there is a constant adapting to change, and that is one thing as a leader you've got to be prepared to do. Um, lead change,
Yes.
lead change. And within all of that, within leading change, you've got to use your emotional intelligence to actually be aware and empathize with other people's experience in that change.
I think that's a subject that I've taught and run workshops on quite a bit, the whole change process. And one of the things that I'd always talk about is the change curve and show how, to start off with, a change is announced. The emotions around the team actually they probably go up rather than down because they've probably been suspecting that something's going to happen. Or if somebody's finally made an announcement, yeah, great, fine. And then they see nothing happen. There's a bit of denial that anything's happening. So spirits are generally high. But then the change happens. People are asked to do stuff that's new, do stuff that's unfamiliar, move out of their comfort zone, and they dip down very quickly. And then
Mhm.
somehow you've got to change that as they get down into the valley of depression, into showing them it works, helping them climb out, helping them try new things, show them what
Mhm.
works. And I certainly think a point where emotional intelligence comes back into this, that you as the leader are normally 2 or 3 steps further along that change curve than
Yes.
the rest of your organization. And there's a tendency, if you're not careful, to forget where the other people are, assume they're
Hmm.
all at the same place as you are. So I
Yeah,
think
and it's,
that's where you've really got to be aware of folk and where their heads are at.
yeah, and you may assume they know more than they do. And you've really got to think about what's the benefit for them to
Yeah,
actually bring them along with you. There's going to be a benefit for the organization. That's why
yeah,
you're, instigating that change. But it's also about, you know, describing to the people around you what the benefit is for them
yeah.
and
I, I,
recognizing you've got to take them with you.
I remember leading big finance change in a couple of coal-fired power stations. And the background to that, that most of the spend, most of the activity took place in the maintenance team. And the relationship between finance and maintenance had fallen apart, such that one wasn't speaking to the other particularly. Yes, we had to put financial systems and processes and so on right. And half of that was changing the processes that were taking place in maintenance and not finance. So a very big part of leading that, as I think back to it, was making maintenance see what was in it for them,
Hmm.
where they knew my remit was what's in this for finance. I've got to put
Hmm.
finance right.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
that's the kind of thing you've got in any change.
Yeah.
You've got to look at every stakeholder there, and they're not all going to be finance people. They're going to come from all different parts of the organization. You've got to work out what's in it for each one of those.
Yeah. And just keep recognizing that, your people are the assets of the organization and, recognizing the part they're playing in change, for example, thanking them for it, thanking
Yeah,
them for their support, for their involvement. Because certainly one of the biggest causes of workplace stress is lack of recognition or lack of a simple thank you.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I think another thing is understanding that there are multiple styles of communication,
mhm,
and you will have a style. Other people in the organization might have the same style, but say you're the finance person. Finance comes out of that world of detail that we talked about.
mhm.
The CEO generally doesn't come out of that world of detail. Most CEOs are taking a 10,000 feet view of what's going on. They don't want the detail.
Yeah.
You might have a bunch of folk around HR that are much more into are people going to be okay here? What does it mean for individuals? And then you get sales and marketing types that really want to talk through all angles of this. They don't really want the detail, they just want to talk about it.
Mm, that's right.
I remember a podcast I recorded with Merrick Rosenberg. It's quite a lot of episodes ago. And he put those 4 categories of people into birds. So you have finance people with the owls, the HR people with the doves, sales and marketing with the parrots, and CEO, etc. The top leadership were eagles. And we started talking about what happens when an owl talks to a dove or an owl talks to an eagle. And we've got to remember, as finance folk, yes, we've probably got some of those power tendencies, which are the bits that sort of almost separate out the people that want to move on from the detail into leadership. But we've got to recognize that everybody else is different. They
Hmm.
don't want to hear the same message that we'd want to hear. And we've got to adapt the way we communicate to tell
Hmm.
them what they want to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
But hey, Catherine, you mentioned that word resilience.
I did. I did. I think, I work with a lot of leaders, and I have done over many years now. And I think it's a long-term position leadership. I mentioned that earlier on. It's not something you step into and step away from. It's something that you throw yourself into. And therefore, we've got to be resilient. And actually, our true resilience comes at times from putting ourselves first,
Yeah,
which doesn't really feel comfortable to a lot of people. But when you put yourself first and ensure that you are supporting yourself to feel emotionally, mentally, and physically balanced, you will be able to see things clearly.
yeah.
And in a lot of that chaos and noise, that is a superpower. To actually retain your energy and your clarity is a superpower as a leader.
And I think
Um,
you've got to have that resilience as well. Catherine. Let's face it, you step into your first leadership role. Nobody has trained you how to do this.
mm-mm,
You're probably getting most of your ideas about leadership from watching other people, possibly role modeling leaders that you've liked in the past. But the one thing that is for certain is you are going to make mistakes. You're going to get stuff wrong.
mhm.
And I think resilience is all about how you recover from those things, dust yourself down and get on with it and move on to whatever's next.
Yeah, I mean, there is like a formula of sorts, which is, stress plus recovery equals resilience. You can't
Yes.
get rid of the stress. It's going to be there in anyone's life, but particularly as a leader. And it's the ways you choose to recover that are so incredibly important. And, a lot of people say, well, I don't have time to do, something, anything. Make the time.
But
You've got to make the time.
make
You've
the
got to set
time
very
to
clear boundaries.
yeah, make the time to recover. Just
Yes.
unpack that a little bit more for me. What do you do to recover? You make time to do what in particular?
Well, it's honestly personal to you. I mean, it's what's important to you. That could be time with family and friends. It may be some kind of activity or hobby, relaxation, whatever allows you to create that balance against the environment that you're working in.
Mm,
So it's very, very personal to
very
you. But
personal.
but 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 I would say know what it is and don't let it go.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
um, I'll say it again, but your own energy and clarity is so, so important as a leader.
yeah. So could it be something like you have a happy place?
Yeah, it can be a happy place. Yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, it can
yes,
be.
yeah,
Um, but it's really reflecting on what's important in your
yeah.
life. And I know this is slightly a bigger philosophy, but yeah, what's important to me? What makes me feel good? What
Mm,
makes me happy, content?
yeah,
And what do I thrive on?
mm, yeah. And I suppose a whole other area to drop into here, Catherine, is having the energy to be present.
Absolutely, absolutely. You've got to be present. It's from that space of presence that we are actually very clear-headed,
Mm,
and we can see the bigger perspectives or the,
yes.
the wider perspectives. And
Mm,
and readily absorb other people's views on things as well. Not be so reactive. We're much more responsive if we're present.
yes. And understanding other people's views has to be key in here because inevitably in a leadership role, that you're perhaps the finance leader, there will be other C-suite leaders who will come with a different opinion, a different view on things.
Mhm.
And quite often, it doesn't mean that one view is right and one view is wrong. I think you've got to understand where everybody's coming from and why they hold those views.
Exactly. It's yeah, exactly. And actually some of, a key component of powerful leadership is asking the right questions
Yes,
that lead others to move forwards, and being prepared to listen to what they say.
yes. And I think in that situation where there are a number of views around, don't always assume your own is the right one.
No, absolutely not. No, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Catherine, that has been absolutely fascinating. And
Mm.
I'm sure we've just scratched the surface on quite a few things there. And there's a lot we could go much, much deeper into. But now we've talked about knowing ourselves, we've talked about culture, whether you can create one or whether it's got to be there to start with, and realizing that, well, you can influence it, but you can't change it. So
Yep.
you've got to get that right. You've got to make sure that you're stepping away from the detail, you're empowering people, you're being present, recognizing that, hey, you're going to make mistakes,
Hmm.
but knowing how to pick yourself up after those mistakes, knowing there are lots of different viewpoints around and yours might not necessarily be the right one. Gosh,
I mean, there's lots. I
it
mean,
takes
I
a
think it's
lifetime to become a good leader.
yeah, but I think I mean, life is a learning journey. That's the reality. So
Yeah.
even as a leader, you're going to keep learning. And but I think for me, it is feeling comfortable in your own skin, knowing that the value you bring, and
Yeah.
actually having that self-worth to know that value that you bring, and for it not to have to be validated by others. So it's very hard being in an environment where you're continually feeling like you've got to prove yourself.
Yes.
So really validate yourself, be the best version of yourself, which in part is that recovery piece of the equation. Um, and just yeah, just make time for what's important, because leadership is a long game.
It is.
Um,
So, Catherine, thank you very much once again for being this week's guest on the Grow CFO show.
yeah, thank you very much, Kevin.
Okay. I think by the time that's edited, that'll be good.
Oh, same. Yes, we only went off track a little bit. Yeah, I think it. I
Yeah.
think that's. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
No, the
think we
rest.
did
I think
absolutely
it
the
was.
right thing of stopping and saying, where's
Yes,
it
yes.
going?
Just
Yeah.
regroup. No, I'd be no, it'd be fine. It'd be absolutely fine. Yeah, with that.
Yeah. So I had a whole load of questions in my mind. And I was thinking, if I ask these, is Catherine going to say what she wants to say?
I
Probably
know.
not.
I find it really hard in podcasts knowing because I always prepare because I want it to be a version of succinct, with
Yes.
pre-thought out thoughts. But equally, one day I'd love to do one completely freehand,
Yeah.
like so the
And I'm
conversation could
more than
go,
happy doing exactly that.
yeah. I mean, I
I've
think, don't get me
very,
wrong, I think we do operate in that way.
yeah,
It's not like I'm reading a script.
no, no,
I just try and fit the things I'm thinking of into what we're talking
yeah,
about. But
yeah,
yeah, it's always good.
yeah. But no, Graham and I in particular, we just talk. We're in the pub having a beer. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Talking of Graham, it is 1 minute to 3, and I'm going
Oh,
to have
and you,
to
yeah,
get
that's fine,
moving.
Kevin. Well, thank you for today, though. Yeah, that's yeah. I think they may fit nicely together. So maybe that is an idea. You got my
Yeah.
picture and stuff, didn't you? So you've
Oh
got
yeah,
that.
yeah. I've got some lovely artwork there for
So
that
maybe
one.
they can go out together, like one
Yeah,
after
they
the other or
can. Yeah,
something at some point
yeah.
when the time's right.
Where are we? We were in Canva. There we are.
Oh yeah, that's better. Yeah,
That's a very nice cover, that one. Yeah.
yeah. Oh
Odd that
yeah.
I know why it came up as that one. I said I'll keep that one there so I can copy it and do a cover for this one. So
Oh
we're going
yeah.
to just call this Navigating Leadership.
I think so, don't you?
Yeah,
From what we talked
yeah.
about, I think that is the
Yes.
right one, isn't it?
I think so.
I
Yes.
think so.
Yeah. Okay. So I will copy that in a minute and yeah. So you can see my little Canva cheat sheet here for all of these
Yeah, it's
things.
good.
Yeah.
Was that the title of the last one? No, yeah, was that the
Yeah,
title of the
that was the
last?
title we had for the
Find
last
your
one.
inner calm. Was that? Is that the right one? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what we decided on before we started talking.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
excellent. I will speak to you very soon, Kevin. Thank you very
Indeed. Yeah,
much.
but anytime you fancy a chat.
Yeah.
I'm
I
always
will.
here.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think maybe we should, yeah, it'd be nice to have a chat rather than, well, I'm
yeah.
trying to do it at the podcast.
Do a virtual coffee sometime with the record
Yeah.
button switched off.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Right. You take
Speak
care,
to you
Catherine.
soon.
Speak to you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye.